Alright, hey guys, this is video 3 of color theory, paint mixing. I obviously have paint on my hands. We have already done the color wheel where we started with our primary yellow, red, blue, mixed our secondaries like green, orange, and violet, and also mixed our tertiaries, or also sometimes known as intermediate colors, like red violet, red orange, yellow green, and blue violet. We've talked about how blue to red, they have the darkest colors because of the way that they are reflected out of white light. And a high intensity color would be something that's right here on the color wheel that we started with just yellow, red, and blue and mixed together. As we add a complement, we used orange for our high intensity color, and we added some blue to create a lower intensity color, and went closer and closer to the center of the wheel where everything's mixed together evenly, and that gives us a more brown, low intense color. Technically it should be black, but because of the pigments that we have, it's not always going to get perfectly black, which is why companies create black. The absence of color, when we're talking about pigment like paint, is white, and I have some here. It's hard to see, but there is a cup right here of white paint. Can you see it now? There you go. Because of the brightness of the light, it's hard to tell. And white, when we add it to a color, creates a tint, which we're going to do coming up now. After we do our tint, we're going to add black to the same high intensity color here and create a low key color. So when you add white, it's called high key. When you add black, it's called low key. So we're going to start with adding white. Whenever we mix a color with white, you should always start with white first. Because if you start with your color and you try and add white to get it really light, you're going to mix and mix and mix and mix and mix. So we're actually going to start with our full intensity hue in these two squares. So I'm actually going to go ahead and paint both right now. So that is taken care of, and I don't have to worry about remixing any of the orange. I went ahead and made sure that I had mixed enough to get me through my worksheet. I don't think that a full round area of this palette is necessary. So as I finish the video, I'll be able to tell exactly how much of your full intensity color is really necessary in order to complete the project that we're working on this sheet today. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have it edge to edge. Remember, we're also practicing staying inside the lines, and as artists we're always taught that you don't have to stay inside the lines because we're individuals and we should color outside the lines. But we're practicing because we're going to be filling in our own lines. Alright, so you color outside the lines when people are telling you specific things to do, not what you want to do. So I have that first one done. I'm going to go ahead and quickly do this one as well. I can always go back and do another coat if I feel like I need to for the full intensity colors. We're not going to change the intensity of the color, but we are going to make the colors get lighter and darker. When you do make it darker, it does tend to change the intensity just because it gets dark so fast, and you won't see the full vividness. White, it's easier to see how vivid it stays. So I'm almost there. Alright. Now, because I'm going to mix into white, I want to try and make sure that I keep that as pristine as possible. So I'm going to wipe my brush off on a piece of paper that's dry. I went to change my water and brought back no water. So we're going to try and be as neat as possible without having to rinse our brush out. I'll probably rinse my brush out when we finish with the tints and come back for the shades. So I'm going to start with my white in the center here. And I'm going to add my color into the white a little at a time. So we actually want less white. So I'm going to start with a dollop of white over here. We'll move into that dollop in a minute. All right, so I'm going to get my orange and I'm going to mix it with my white. And I'm not looking to really go that light yet, so I'm going to get a little more orange. All right, the idea is gradual. So that is just vaguely lighter than that, and I'm going to make sure it's nice and mixed so it's not streaky. All right, and I'm going to paint in this square next to it. Now, as we add white, it gets a little bit more opaque, just because of the way white paint acts. It has an opacifier in it, which during our project when we're using yellow, we'll probably actually add a little white into the very light colors like yellow, green, yellow, and yellow orange, so that you have better capability to resist streaking from the white paper underneath and make sure everything looks even and smooth. So a touch of white can help to make things a little bit more opaque because of the properties of white. So now that I have that one filled in, I'm going to get a little bit lighter by getting some more of my white here. I might move over to the side so I don't have to make it add so much white, and I can save some paint. There's still a lot of orange in my paintbrush. Alright, so this is what I just mixed. This is my lighter color. I think we're ready to go to our square. It's easier to stay in your lines if you start in the middle and then work up to your edge. Normally I would turn my paper, but I taped it down so I stay in the frame for the video, so I now have to move myself around my paper to get it in there nice and neat. And I might want to pick up a little bit more so I get it nice and even here. Remember, the harder you press on your brush, the fatter it's going to get, no matter if it's a flat brush, a round brush, an angled brush. So you only want to apply enough pressure to get your paint on the paper unless you're trying to fill a larger area, and then you can press bigger, okay? We're trying to be tidy, and we have small little areas here, so I'm not pressing really hard. And I'm doing some more strokes so I can be tidier rather than speedy, okay? In the long run, tidiness counts, right? So I've gone lighter. I'm going to keep going lighter, and I'm going to keep moving over so I'm mixing just with whatever's left on my brush. So I can turn my palette. So, and I can also do this like we did before and squeeze my paint off my brush so I have more paint to actually mix with without hurting my brush as much. I think that that looks lighter. We want to mix enough so that we don't have streaks, but also so we don't end up with our brush super saturated. Okay. So you have 6 boxes here. Make sure you use them all and make sure you evenly get lighter and lighter. It shouldn't jump suddenly. It looks like I missed a spot there. Maybe I should go back. I don't know if I have the right color. I can try. Might not be perfect. It's probably too light. Okay, so I'm going to keep going whiter. Now I have a whole bunch of white over here. I'm just going to mix straight into that white. And I might pick up some more of this over here. Whatever color you choose to do your high intensity to low intensity should also be the same color you use to do your tint. You know, when you're making art, you're not necessarily going to be always using the same color, but the reason we're trying to use the same color is because we're talking about a monochromatic color scheme. So our monochromatic color scheme is one hue or color from the color wheel plus only the other two colors that we don't, they're not really colors. So one hue plus black and or white, okay? So it has one color. Mono means one, chromatic means a color, chroma means color, chromatic means having only one color, or having color. Okay, so I'm going to get that spot, and I'm going to add a little bit more white. Now, I need it from here, because I don't want to mess up my white. I'm actually going to reach in with the back of my brush, but I'm going to be careful for this last one that I don't get that all over my hand. So I'm going to reach in with my back of my brush. Now I can wipe that off, and my white is still pristine, okay? So I'm going to mix that tiny bit of peach in with my white and get the palest peachy orange. Right, so let's see if that's actually lighter. Let's see. It is. It's ever so much lighter. Okay. Now I'll fill in this square, and then we'll be moving on to shade plus black, or shade, which is a hue plus black. So we're using orange, and we'll start adding black to it. I'm going to run to the back, make sure the light stays on, and grab my water. Okay, so I got my water. Clean my brush on the way. I'm going to wipe it so it's nice and dry. Because for what we're doing, we don't want water because we don't want to thin our paint out, because we want as much vividness as possible. While I have my paintbrush dry, I'm going to go ahead and coat these two full intensity colors with the orange that I initially created, so we don't have any white showing through and they don't look like they're a tint right at the beginning. So it looks fully intense. Alright, so in order to make shades, we're going to be adding black. Black like blue, violet, and violet, blue and violet is a very pigment intense color. It's very dark, and when you add it, just like we did when we added the blue to make our high intensity a low intensity, we're only going to add a tiny bit at a time, because it will get so dark so fast. I'm actually going to use my paper towel and wipe out this center area here, so I have room to mix. Alright, you're fully welcome to put your colors in a little container that you can seal, to actually go to the sink to wash. I'm actually even going to use some water on my brush to get that last little bit of white out of there. So that we're not adding gray, we're adding black, and that way it doesn't become lighter and muddy, we just get it darker. Okay, so I'm going to put some of my orange into my pot, and I'm going to add the tiniest dot of black, like literally, I know it's not focused there, but the tiniest dot, okay? I can always add more, but you can't take it away without making a whole big mess. So I'm going to add it here. We're going to add our orange in ever so slightly. And like it did in the intensity, it starts to look a little bit more brown, and that is pretty normal. We're just going darker with that one. I'm actually going to get the tiniest bit more. Oh my goodness, that's way too much, but we'll see what happens. Alright. So we only want to get a little darker at a time. Alright, so I'm going to go with this color and paint it in. I think I had a little bit of water in my brush. So go this way and you're doing a shade, it's not as big of a deal because you're going to get darker and darker and it will cover it up. I'm actually going to put some of this over here to the side in a cup so that if I need to do another coat on that one I can because of the water content over there. Alright, so make sure my brush is dry for this next one. Alright, so I'm going to start back again with my orange and the tiniest dot of black. Alright, it's the tiniest. It's far easier to add more black than it is to add more orange. As you add more orange, it won't get as more vivid as you expect it should with the amounts that you add because black is just so pigmented. Okay, so I've got that mixed and I'm going to use this color right here, and whatever I don't have I might put in this hole over here so that if I need another coat. Oh, that looks so close. Maybe I need more black. Alright, remember the tiniest bit. Can you barely see that? Like right there, the tiniest bit. You guys see how dark it got so fast? Alright, it gets pretty dark pretty fast. Alright. So the lighter the color you start with, the more careful you need to be with how much black you add. Initially, like if you have yellow, it will get dark very quickly because yellow doesn't have as much pigment as my orange because I've added red to my orange. Okay, so I'm actually going to squeeze this out right here. get my brush nice and dry, and I'm going to go back with that color because it's dry now, and that way I can have my second coat done and not have to worry about it for that one. Alright, so I'm going to continue adding black to this little bit of orange right here. Again, the tiniest amount. Make sure I get that orange in there. So if you start back and there's a brush stroke and you realize it's not actually darker than the previous shade, you need to make sure that you go ahead and adjust before you paint the whole square, okay? So you have plenty of paint to use, and you don't have to worry about starting back from full orange, okay? Make sure you double check. Alright, so I'm going to continue adding black. Oh, that's too much black. Okay. Looks pretty close. That is much better. You guys can't even see because I'm off the page. Okay. So, wasn't that a pretty brown? Now, because the orange has yellow in it, sometimes before it gets black, it starts to look a little brown just because of the way that the colors mix. Sometimes the black tends to look more blue in some pigments, especially when you add white to it. So I don't have that very smooth, so I'm going to get some more of my paint here and go back before I continue on. I feel like I'm getting messier. Alright, and then I'm going to add my last tiny bit of black for that last one. All right, so we have high intensity to low intensity. We have full intensity color to our lightest tint. And we have full intensity color to our darkest shade. All right, all the full intensity colors are right up here on the color wheel. And they start to lose intensity as we add our complement. And they start to get lighter as we add white to make a tint, which is considered high key. And they get darker as we add black, which is considered low key or a shade. So shades are plus black, tints are plus white, and this is our color wheel. These can all be considered a color scheme. Okay, and a popular type of color scheme is a monochromatic, which would be our hue or color plus white and plus black, or only plus black or only plus white. Okay, so it's only one hue and black or white or black and white. All right, I hope this helped you guys out, and we should start on our project soon. Have a good night.